Hello again, LinkedIn community, and welcome to my second live today. This time it is in English, and we're going to talk about mastering the basics with a very special gentleman, Dean. Dean is one of these people who I would say is one of these guardian angels that you're not aware of. You know, people who protect you, work for you in the background, and because you're not aware of it, you're totally ignorant, you just take it for granted. And then one day they appear in your life and say, hey, I always believed in you, I always protected you, I've always been there for you, and I don't expect anything in return, but I believe in you, and I like what you do, and that's why I wanted to give you a little bit of extra protection. And that's the story of Dean. So Dean is a little bit of a guardian angel for me. And we met live or met online a few years ago, and 2 years ago, when I had the opportunity to be in New York, I reached out and said, hey, we can finally meet in person. Would you be free for a coffee? And Dean, as Dean is the most generous person, or one of the most generous people that I know on this planet, he said, you know what? Forget coffee, I'll show you around. And I also introduced you to the LinkedIn team. I was like, this man is really out of this world. So Dean, thank you so much for being here today.
Wow, can I bring you everywhere? An introduction like that, Dr. Natalia. My goodness sakes, you're so kind. And it's a real treat to be with you today. I know it's evening time in Dubai, morning here in the New York area. So it is just a real treat and pleasure to be with you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you also for gifting me with your book, Mastering the Basics. I had a look at it and I was like, the basics? And the ignorant part of me is like, nah, I know the basics. Nah, don't need to read that. And then I opened the book and it had a few very beautiful and then motivating, inspiring words. Thanks for that. And then I had a look at the chapters and I thought, ooh, that's a very unconventional way of writing a book. And I thought, wow, so you can start reading everywhere. And for me, it's more than a business or career book. It is a book about personal development. It's a book about self-compassion. It's a book about networking. It's a book about becoming the best version of yourself. And what I would love to do is, you can see, I read the book and there are a few pages that I really resonated with. So I would like to discuss those. But I mean, I'm not the focus here today. Dean is here to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, if you really want to, achieve success in business, in your career this year, Dean is the man. But if you've never heard of him before and say, Dean, really, like, what makes you believe that you can talk about that? Tell us a little bit more about your story and expertise and how you became the person that you are today.
Well, I think what's important to remember is I'm just an average guy. And I worked hard in school. I've worked hard in my business career. I don't have an MBA. I don't have a PhD. And what I talk to people about is, how do you become successful in your personal life and in your career by enhancing the skills that we were all given? And I called all those things the basics. And it covers everything from, being good to people, working hard, how you work with people in your organizations. And a lot of these are skills that they don't teach in business school. They're not courses on this. And, strategic planning is important and financial analysis is important. But how do you interact with colleagues in your own company? And how do you interact with customers? And I call all of those things basic skills. So in the book, there are 200 different topics. And as you said, it's all 1 page, 2 pages each for to cover various topics that we encounter both in our business lives and in our personal lives.
Absolutely. Thank you for everybody who joined. We have Rakesh, we have Sohaib Sezin from Munich, and Mukhtar, who really loves the title of the book. And Sohaib says, mastering the basics is important before mastering the extremes to compete, succeed, and to win. Love the title of the book. If you are listening or watching this, don't be shy. Dean is generous enough to gift us with approximately 40 minutes of his wisdom, time, knowledge. So make sure that you can, that you just ask. Daria wants to know, where can I get this book?
Well, it is available. I always talk about supporting our local bookstores, whether we are in Europe or whether we're in Asia or the United States. You go to your local bookstore and they can order it for you. So always support your small retailer. It is available at large retailers. And of course, it is available on Amazon, both in a print version and in a Kindle version. So support all retailers.
Fantastic. Okay, let's start with what was the first thing that I highlighted here. So you can see, I work with a green color. I absolutely loved what you say, how to deal with an upset customer. So very often we are answering with why. And you say here, I quote, I realize that people don't want to hear why. They want to hear how we plan to solve the problem. So you even mentioned this phenomenal formula. Like this sentence alone is worth, I don't know, like basically a huge investment into a personal coach. And here, everybody who's watching or listening, note that down. You're right. We are wrong. I take full responsibility and I sincerely apologize. This is how I'd like to fix it. Seriously? This is genius. Like, Dean, how do you come up with that stuff?
Well, because I think, being honest, I think early in my career, I probably was like everyone else. When you hear somebody complain, you want to have an excuse. And you come up with a way of saying, well, what happened was a delay in shipping or something happened in delivery. And what you need to say is, you know what, I'm sorry. We made a mistake and this is how we're going to fix it. How many times have we've happened to all of us? How many times have you called a company and you go through the menu of trying to reach various people and you get frustrated and upset and you're not wanting to hear excuses. You want solutions. And it comes down to keeping it simple, being basic and say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. This is how we're going to fix it.
Absolutely. Ava also loves your answer. She says how instead of why. Great stuff. Definitely. This one, the first sentence, I thought, this is a great start to the book. Then you also have a chapter on be a champion and be an evangelist. So what on earth is a champion and what is an evangelist and why should we be both?
Well, I think they're very similar. I think it's standing up for what you believe in and supporting people, supporting a cause. It's like me saying to you a couple of years ago, Natalia, I love what you're doing. When you first started posting videos and supporting your work and supporting your presentations and being there as an ally. And that's what a champion is and promoting a cause. An evangelist is just saying, is like me and you working together. And I talk about you all the time saying, you should follow Dr. Natalia because you've got great guidance and great ideas. So I'm an evangelist, for the work that you're doing. And I think we all can do that. And we all should do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And business in the end is people working with people. And when you like somebody's work or when you think that they're doing amazing, just talking about them, tagging them, commenting below their posts on social media or dropping their name when you're on a Zoom call with somebody else is such a tiny act for you, but it can change somebody's life. And it's such an amazing way how you can help small and medium-sized businesses. But that's something that people are not aware of, correct?
That's exactly right. And how hard is that to do? It's so simple. That is a basic, what you just covered right there is, oftentimes we say, they did a great job. Well, let the person know.
Yeah.
Did a good job. Thank you to the company that did a good job. And it's a benefit to them, but it also makes you feel good too. It's a two-way street. And they don't teach that at the Harvard Business School. Yep. And again, these are part of the basics that I believe in.
Very true. There is another chapter on authenticity or being authentic. And everybody talks about this, you need to be authentic, just be yourself. And I was like, if it would be just, everybody would be that. But you have a beautiful definition of authenticity. So you say, for me, being authentic boils down to three qualities: vulnerability, character, and transparency. Could you explain that in a little bit more depth for us, for everybody who's like, I don't get it?
Well, sometimes we just try to be not who we are for real. For example, as a salesperson, when I first got into sales, I thought I had to be flashy. I thought I had to be act a certain way, because we all have perceptions of what certain businesses are, what certain professions are. And then that's probably one of the greatest learnings I ever had, is at the end of the day, I just needed to be myself. So when I say I'm transparent, I let people see my flaws. I let people see my good qualities. And it's a lot easier that way to just be yourself. So sometimes the word authentic, people say, well, what does that mean? Well, I just call it's being genuine. Yeah. And so it's credibility, reputation, integrity. And I use the word character. And I'm a big believer in that word, because that's who we really are. You know, before we got live this morning, Natalia, you and I were talking about that. Can you look at yourself in the mirror and be happy with what you're doing? And that's being transparent. And that's showing who your true colors are, what your character really is. How do you act when no one's looking? And I think that's vulnerability, authenticity, and character.
A painful but an absolutely needed question if you want to live a happy, balanced, and successful life. So thank you so much for the reminder. Then also something on the topic of being open to constructive criticism. So I believe that, especially in the beginning of your career, or when you didn't work so much on yourself, when you hear criticism, you're like, ew, and you want to defend yourself. Right. But what you said here, I absolutely love that, and I quote you again. After the person finishes, think about some good qualifying questions you can ask. Please elaborate on that, because people might be like, wow, so somebody punches me in the face, you want me to hand over the next cheek? Yeah. Tell us how to make the most out of a situation where you get constructive criticism.
You know, you touched on a few things there. That what's important is, no one wants to be criticized. We don't want to hear our flaws, but it's important, if we're going to grow and develop, that we do ask those questions of people. How can I improve? But still, if you say to me, Dean, you talk too fast, or your hands are always moving when you're talking, I want to know how I can improve. If you don't want to improve, then don't ask for, criticism. Don't ask for ideas of how I can improve. And I just think it's a lesson for all of us that when you get constructive criticism, say, well, do you have ideas of how I can do it better? Let me know what you believe in. And that's why we all seek out coaches or mentors, to get that honest feedback. That's the way we can improve. And this doesn't happen when we're in our teens or 20s or 30s. This happens throughout our career and throughout our lives, looking for ways to do things better. And it's taking a deep breath and saying, I need to hear that criticism or critical ideas of how I can improve. And that's, again, being honest and transparent also.
For everybody who's watching this, again, if you have any questions for Dean, don't hesitate. Start typing them now, and we'll give our best to answer them. You also have a chapter on vulnerability. So be vulnerable. How do you define it? And where on earth is the boundary? Because I see so many people complain, especially on LinkedIn, saying, oh yeah, but that's too vulnerable, or I don't know how vulnerable I should be. And isn't that a kind of like an emotional striptease? And I don't know how far I should go. What's your advice for somebody who has been in business for such a long time? What is this vulnerability thing about, and how far can I go with it?
I think vulnerability ties in with just being honest and open and letting people know that you do have flaws, or you do have areas where you need to improve. It's also balancing that with the confidence of saying that I'm actually really good at what I do. I like when people have said to me through the years, Dean, you enjoy speaking to people. You get in front of audiences, and you do your LinkedIn learning courses, and you speak in front of large organizations. When you ran that sales organization, do you ever get nervous? And I love telling people, you're darn right I get nervous. I do these LinkedIn learning courses, and I laugh because each time I do it, my stomach gets in a knot and my knees shake a little bit. And I've been doing this for a long time. But I have the confidence, though, in my abilities that I quickly overcome that. But when people say, Dean, you get nervous, and I admit that, they say, wow. Because I say everybody gets nervous. If you don't get nervous before speaking, then you're not taking it seriously. Natalia, I was wound up today getting ready to work with you in this discussion because I take this seriously. That's vulnerability. But I also believe in my abilities enough that I'm excited to talk about the messages that you and I are covering this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you for being so open and talking about it. And we have already a few questions coming in. For example, from Dr. Barto. Great talk. Dean, how do you heal old business wounds? For example, if you struggle with an old wound where somebody in business hurts you very hard.
That's a great question. And every situation is different. And there's some cases, and I tell this now as I work and coach people in the business world, sometimes we do need to move on. and sometimes if the wound is that deep, you know what? Maybe I just don't want to work with that person anymore. Now, again, every situation is different, and every conversation you have, every wound is different. But in general terms, I think that you can take the high road, which is a message in my book also, of you try to reach out with that olive branch and see if you can correct things that had caused that wound to begin with. But there comes a point when sometimes when you're working with somebody where you just have to determine and decide that I need to move on and find a different course of action for myself. But that's an excellent question because we all encounter that both in our personal lives and in our business lives.
Absolutely. And if you can't do it on your own, then I always recommend booking in a session with a professional and say, listen, I still feel hurt. I still feel disappointed. I want to forgive for the sake of my own sanity and health, but I can't do it on my own. Let's have an hour of a conversation or a hypnotherapy session or a whatever tool you use to let that go and to forgive. Maybe don't forget. So you're smart, you learned from last time, but forgive for the sake of your own health and sanity. This is what I always do.
That's a very important message that is a lot different than when I first got into business. And sometimes when we had wounds or issues or we internalized it. And I know early in my career, there were times when I said, well, I just have to deal with this myself. Now I always recommend to people, seek out a mentor, seek out a coach, seek out somebody else who can support you. And if need be, it is perfectly right and smart to seek professional assistance. And again, back in the early days of my career, when you talk about somebody getting professional assistance for mental health issues, that was like, kept quiet. Oh. Now I recommend it all the time. These people went to school to help people. And raise your hand if you need help. And don't be shy about it. Again, this goes back to the topic of vulnerability. Admit it when you need help. It's a good segue. I'm going to tell you an interesting story, Natalia. When I first got into business, I was overwhelmed. And I'm thinking, what am I doing? I was living in a part of the U.S., upstate New York, and there was a lot of snow, and I was snowbound in this small little apartment. I'm thinking, what's going on with my life? And it's funny. I've actually shared this with a few people. I wrote down a message to myself. This goes back 40 years ago. And I said, remember this day. It wasn't too good. Always remember this for the rest of your life. And it's right here. So if you could see that. And I've kept it in my wallet all of these times. That was therapy 40 years ago. Today, I probably should have gone to professional therapy then. I still refer to this every once in a while when I'm having one of those days to say, remember how it was. But again, the lesson there, that's to talk about a vulnerable presentation right there, right?
Exactly. Again, thanks so much for sharing that. And I think Nina's question perfectly fits to that topic. How to deal with the fear of success?
That's a good question because it's something I wish I had that more often. I'd love to have success all the time. And we don't have that. That's just part of life. The fear of success is something that fortunately has not impacted me. And I've always tried to be successful and tried to be open and honest. And some people, could be the imposter syndrome. You feel like you're in a situation, do I deserve this? That's a perfect example of a question of where you seek out guidance from your manager, your coach, your family members and peers who have been in situations like this. So that's a vulnerable question to ask.
Thanks so much for doing so, Nina. We also have Rifat, who wants to know, how do we overcome the pressure of peers and spectators, armchair critics, to focus on our own journey?
Yeah, there's always people who are going to be, that's the personalities of life, and we're all different. And there are those who will question and mock your success or put pressure on you. And it comes back to coming back to your own values and your own beliefs and what really matters to you. And I talk about in the book, there's a point in our lives when you have to try to avoid people who are negative. They drag you down. Don't let the negative people, the criticizers, drag you down. Avoid them. Move on. And it's a lesson I learned. I mean, again, I point out, I didn't figure this out when I was 20 years old. This has been an ongoing learning process. And even to this day, I find times when I need to move on from certain individuals. We grow and we develop. And always put that in the back of your mind to say, don't let the negative people and the criticizers drag you down. You talk about this a lot, Natalia, in your posts. I mean, this is the key message of yours. I'm not going to let these people do this to me, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, fully agree with you. Haters gonna hate, right? Then we have Ava. Ava says, some people have success but pay a very high price. After stumbling or failing with a burnout, what do you recommend them to get back on track?
It's again, everybody's different, and it goes back to what our values are and what our beliefs are and what really matters to us. And in my book and what I've talked about to the people I've managed in departments in companies is that the most important thing to me is family. Family comes first. And I've talked about that to everybody. So when you talk about success and where we're growing and how we redevelop, it starts with what really matters. And maybe your faith, maybe your family, success and money, that needs to be lower down the list. And again, I sound like everyone's old uncle here, but it is health, it is family, and those do need to come first. So when we talk about success and what in business and so forth, working 70 hours a week and having a big house and a car, but you don't have all those other things in your life, is that success? So you need to define what success means to you. Now, I'm not mocking people. Some people love working 70 hours a week. Bless them. But that's not for me. And life is too short. So figure out in your mind what the success priorities are.
100%. I fully agree with you. And then it went a little bit into entrepreneurship. Zishan wants to know how to look if my idea will work or not. Is there any requirement for my idea? I assume that it's related to setting up a business.
Yeah, it's where I come from, there's an interesting background, is that I've spent my entire career in the corporate world. And I work with some terrific companies. I mean, I was very fortunate to work with some great organizations. And it's just the last 6 years where I've been an entrepreneur, so to speak, in a small way, as a coach, as a sales trainer and career development coach. But as far as establishing and setting up the business, you're the expert with that, Natalia, in shifting your career 6-7 years ago and stopping and taking that sabbatical to say, what do I want to really do and how do I set up a business? You're the success model there.
Thanks so much. We also have a question that reaches me quite often during the week, and I would also like to have your perception on this. So Daria wants to know, if you would have to decide again, doing your master's degree or move forward without it, how would you decide and why? And she would like to have the perspective of us both. So you won't believe how many students reach out to me and they say, oh, I work here on my bachelor's or my master's, or should I do a PhD? Dr. Nutt, what do you recommend? And it's always such a difficult question to answer. So what do you recommend, Dean?
We're all different, and everybody has a different path to go on. I think the message that is important, whether you're going on for an advanced degree or whatever it might be, is you always need to be learning. I don't have a master's degree, but 5 years ago, I went back to college and I went to New York University to take courses in training and coaching. I'd spent my whole career in training and coaching, but I needed some more foundational work and more foundational training. So I went back to school. I'm always taking courses. I'm always reading. And that phrase, always be learning and lifelong learning, those cannot be catchphrases. Those must be part of your success list if you're going to be successful. Some people are excellent. I mean, look at Natalia. You got a PhD at a very young age. You worked your tail off to do that. And that's outstanding. And candidly, I don't think I could do that. It's beyond my pay grade, so to speak, of being able to.
Nerve-wracking.
But the other side of it is that throughout my career, I've taken courses, I've trained, I've gone to training classes and seminars, and I've read. And a message, on LinkedIn Learning, where I have courses. There are so many outstanding people.
13 of them, by the way.
You have courses on the German side of LinkedIn Learning. I have courses on the U.S. side, and I watched two people. When you talk about learning, the people you can learn from. There are two LinkedIn Learning instructors in the States, Todd Dewitt and Sarah Canaday, who are exceptional trainers, leaders, and have built businesses. And they do a LinkedIn Live every other week, once a week, and on leadership and management. I'm thinking, I'm getting this for free. I'm watching these two experts talk about management situations and leadership situations for free. And on LinkedIn Live. And so it's, again, so to answer the question specifically, always be learning. If you want to go back to school and get a master's, do it. Go for it. But always remember to, your education never ends.
Absolutely. And my 2 cents on top of that, during my PhD research, I realized that there's a huge difference in the way how the Anglo-American educational system and job market works compared to the German one. So based on your name, Daria Keller, I would highly assume that you come from the German-speaking region. So first of all, depending on what kind of expert you ask, from which cultural background, or based on the, again, educational system and the job market situation, you will get totally different answers if you ask somebody from North America or somebody from Germany. So that's the first thing you need to be aware of. And then it also makes a big difference if you believe that you want to have a rather traditional career and working for somebody, or if you already know now, all of that, I am an entrepreneur, I want to be my own boss, I have been writing out ideas and creating my own lemonade stands and sold stuff on eBay since I'm 7. So the question about the long-term goals of your career definitely also have an impact on the question, should I study or not? Right. Which for me just means getting an official paper with an official stamp, which in my perception is of more importance in a country like Germany compared to the US.
We're all different, and our cultures are different. Our beliefs are somewhat different. I think we have a lot more similarities than we all might think, but different countries, different regions, we have different philosophies. There's a course on LinkedIn Learning called Communicating Across Cultures. Tatiana Kolovu, who's a professor at Indiana University here in the US, where she talks about that, the different cultures and different styles and how we work and communicate and what things mean. A German background, US, Singapore, Australia, similarities, but obviously a lot of differences too.
Yeah, absolutely. Then Dr. Barto has a follow-up question. He says, great insights, thank you. My question is about speed and patience. Some days it feels like I'm working the whole day, and at the evening it feels like I've not done that much. I guess the question is, how do I deal with that? How do I get out of that slump or look at this situation?
I think that's a great question, Doctor, because it's one that we're all encountering now because our worlds have all changed in the past year, where we're not accomplishing as much as we did a year ago. You know, it's our companies have changed, our businesses have changed, our lifestyle has changed. I think we all have to step back. You know, if we used to have a checklist of 10 things I want to accomplish today, I think now, because with everything that's going on, how do I get 3 things done? I've always said that in the course of my life. You know, I used to have a desk like of papers and notes and so forth, and I'd say, what are the 3 things that I want to get accomplished? And what are the priorities for today? And people talk about that a lot. You know, we got that to-do list or checklist and so forth. You have to find something that works for you. So for me, it is that. What are the 3 things that I can accomplish today that make me successful? It's different than that list was different a year ago. So it's being realistic with yourself of what you can accomplish and giving yourself some credit. And it's okay if you don't get it done and you don't get it done, and admitting that. So it's being realistic and being honest with yourself.
Then we also had a question from Ahmed, who wants to know, how can we understand our self-perception is changing, and how could or should I maintain the same self-perception at all the times without fear?
Let's see. Well, our self-perception is how we believe in ourselves or how we look at ourselves. I should maintain the same preparation. How would you answer that, Dr. Natalia? I'm having a difficult time
understanding. Yeah, I was also wondering. So this is how I understand it, is that maybe you perceive yourself as somebody who's good or self-confident, or I can really do this. And then you realize, oh, but maybe, well, I'm not good enough anyway. Maybe this little imposter syndrome is kicking in, or that voice in your head saying, no. You're not good enough yet, or you're not skilled enough, or you're too young, or not experienced enough. So maybe keeping the balance between being self-confident and humble enough to succeed. That's how I would interpret it.
You know, what's interesting there is in the book I talk about this in I've worked with people in my career, is self-confidence and believing in yourself is a lot harder than we all assume. And everybody says, oh, you need to believe in your abilities. You have to develop self-confidence. That's easier said than done sometimes, because we all doubt ourselves. Again, goes back to, everyone says, Dean, you're very confident in your abilities, which I am, but I doubt my abilities too. And we all go through that. Life is a roller coaster of highs and lows. If you think you're always going to be running at 100% efficiency throughout your life, throughout your day, throughout your career, I think you're kidding yourself. You're going to have moments of self-doubt. You're going to have moments when your self-perception has been tarnished. And it's you just need to find ways to get out of that rut. And that's, again, goes back to finding a good coach, finding a good mentor. And if need be, if your self-perception, if your self-confidence has been hit and hurt, then that's when you do seek out professional guidance.
Absolutely. We also have a beautiful question from Kim. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we had the opportunity to also meet, and the 3 of us, we were actually in at the LinkedIn office. And Kim also has a few amazing LinkedIn learning courses out there. So she wants to know, what is your best piece of advice for 2021 having to do with sales? Would you like to start?
Hello, Kim. How are you? You know, you talk about a great entrepreneur. I mean, Natalia, you and Kim Kaup with her businesses and development, right out of college, build a business as an entrepreneur. So you want good guidance, watch her course on LinkedIn on entrepreneurship. I think for salespeople, we got to be even better. You know, I always talk about salespeople. If I sold the same way now as I did 10 years ago, I would be out of business. And it goes back to also always be learning. We need to be better prepared. We need to do better research as salespeople about the customers that we're meeting. I cringe now when I get messages on LinkedIn where somebody says hello to me and then 2 minutes later they're trying to sell me
my stuff.
And I'm like, who trained these people? Who trained these poor souls that they go from hello to I'd like to sell you something, or they say, tell me about yourself. That drives me nuts because the most important thing for a salesperson is planning and preparation, Kim. And I think now in 2021, it's not only the technology that we have. I started my career doing face-to-face selling. I'd be in somebody's office. Now I'm doing it on a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call. It's totally different. So salespeople need to be better prepared, be more professional, know the customer as well and as best as they can and better than the competition. It requires more work. The other part of the best salesperson right now, Kim, is collaboration. You need to bring in, again, when I first started in sales, I had my own little fiefdom. It was like, keep all the other departments away from me. These are my customers. These are my accounts. In this day and age, you need to have a sales engineer. You need to be working closely with marketing and all departments within your organization, large and small. Our goal and our mission as salespeople is to solve the needs of the customers that we're working with, whether it be with a product or a service.
Yeah, beautifully said. My advice, so everybody talks about social selling at the moment, and social selling is the new way of selling. And for me, in the end, social selling is building relationships, understanding your customer, listening to your customer, serving your customer, giving, and not expecting anything, and then giving again, and then inviting people to work with you. So something that Gary Vee said last year, I don't know when it was, he said, if you want to win in 2021, you need to create, and I can't remember the number because it was so ridiculously high. He mentioned a number like X pieces of content per week. And I said, what on earth? I'm not a publishing house. And then I said, you know what? Challenge accepted. So now we have, what is it? It's the 12th of January, and we give our best to post 2 or 3 times per day on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And with the right preparation, it is definitely possible. And here comes the crazy thing. People are approaching us for business. I mean, if you ask me for my strategy of getting e-keynotes or getting booked as a trainer or as a speaker at the moment, I know it sounds nuts, but it is post highly value-adding content 3 times per day, lead through thought leadership, serve your community, and that just works incredible for us at the moment, touch wood.
Yeah. That's great advice, great guidance. And it's the customers, going back to Kim's question about dealing with the new customers and as salespeople are finding new customers, you have to remember that they're feeling the same stresses that you are. Though the world is really intense right now, and a buyer and working with a company is under extreme pressure. I think, again, going back, a lot of salespeople early in my career didn't realize and didn't understand the pressure the buyers were in. And I think the best salespeople put themselves in that role and understand. And that goes back to emotional intelligence, which is an important topic that I think is so important, is being aware, being good listeners. That's what the best salespeople are. The best salespeople aren't closers. The best salespeople are good listeners, and they establish trust and emotional intelligence, and they understand and they study emotional intelligence. It's a very important topic. That's my one last plug for a LinkedIn learning course. There's a great one by Gemma Lee Roberts on emotional intelligence, and again, that's one I would recommend for everybody to watch. So,
thanks for that. Then, because I can't see any further questions, I'd like to move back to your book. There was a chapter on conflicts. And what I was surprised to read was that conflict is good and healthy for an organization. It ties in with being open, honest, and addressing the issue. I found that a very interesting perspective because I know a lot of people would say, no, avoid conflict at all cost. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, no one likes to be in confrontational situations, but you're not going to be successful unless you are very honest with your people within your company and in your organization. There's a best-selling book by Patrick Lencioni called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And one of the dysfunctions he talks about is the fear of conflict. And it's not being confrontational. It's not saying, Natalia, I don't like what you're doing. You're doing a lousy job. It's saying, Natalia.
You do that once again, I'll punch you in the face. Whoa!
No, it's saying what you need to be doing, Natalia, with your content is X, Y, and Z. Conflict is being honest, and it's okay to have debate, and then you move on. And if what you don't want is everyone saying, oh, Natalia, you're terrific. You know what? You're just great. And they're not telling you how you can improve or how we should be doing things better together. And so there's a difference between the word conflict and confrontation. And so it's, again, I thought it's a best-selling book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Patrick Lencioni. Everybody put that one on your reading list.
Okay, well, so many things that we can watch and read and learn. Absolutely amazing. And then one of my favorite chapters, don't be afraid to say no. I know so many people pleasers. I used to be a people pleaser. And what you say here was so eye-opening. And everybody who's watching right now, really let that soak in, because that is a total new perspective on the issue or the challenge of saying no. So this is what Dean says here. No, it comes down to being honest with yourself and realistic to the person asking you. It's much better to be upfront right from the beginning rather than backtracking later on. And you know what I really like? The part of being realistic to the person asking you.
Yeah.
And that was just like,
yeah.
And what I started doing now, whenever somebody approaches me with something and I'm like, I don't want to do it, but I need to find a diplomatic way of saying no. Mm-hmm. I always say, I want to be honest with you and I want to give you a realistic perspective on this matter. At the moment, our workload is so high and and with that budget it just doesn't work for me. It doesn't feel right, whatever. And nobody felt offended. Nobody screamed. Nobody said I'm an arrogant something or I feel better or whatever, because apparently that was one of my fears. So being honest and realistic and not justifying myself and not defending myself, but also explaining the situation, because I'm a big fan of saying no, because although I fully know or am aware of that no is a full sentence. So tell us more about the art of saying no in a diplomatic way.
How many times have we had people say yes, and then they fall short in fulfilling their obligation? Oh, is that annoying, right? People say they're going to do something in a meeting, or they're going to provide these services or agreements to you, and then they're late, or they don't do it at the level they should be. And I think you said it better than I did. It's being honest and just saying, I just can't do this right now. I wouldn't be able to do it at the level that you need. Let's try it again, maybe at a different time, again, early in our careers, I think we all say yes because we don't want to be known as the person who said no.
Exactly.
And all of that links, again, going back to confidence and believing in yourself. These are difficult things to learn. So it's very easy for me to say, oh, you should say no more often. But it takes the time, and it takes confidence and believing in yourself to say, you know what, I just can't do this right now. And I would like to, but I can't. So the answer is no.
And that also ties beautifully into the topic of don't hold back telling bad news. So you say you make it far worse for everyone and yourself when you're waiting. So take a deep breath, focus on your message, and deliver it today. That so reminded me of the day when I resigned. So I was 29. It was the first time I had to resign. And like once I made the decision, I realized like every cell of my body was screaming, resign! Tell him to resign today! You need to get out of here! And a part of me was like, I don't know how to do it. It's like breaking up. And so it really brought me back to that feeling. And I had to smirk because I had totally forgotten about the situation. So help us a little bit when it comes to this topic. You have a bad message. You need to deliver it. How on earth do we start, or how do we get there?
Yeah, it is easier said than done because, again, I can sit here and say what you need to do is X, Y, and Z, but when you're in that situation, it is very difficult. But again, through time, you get more experience and you realize the longer you wait, the longer you prolong the torture, the pain for everybody. No, but again, it's very easy for me to say, address it on first thing Monday morning and go out and do it. But we've all lost sleep. Right. And when we say I've got to make a decision that is not going to be a popular one. I just found you got to cut to the chase and do it. It's it's an interesting thing. That's probably, I worked with a great company before I went off on my own. And unfortunately, the industry I was in was making a lot of changes. So instead of training and coaching and selling, I was doing a lot of reorganizing and redeploying of people and unfortunately letting people go. And so when you talk about the pain of saying, how do I address a negative thing? It's sort of like, I was putting people through torture because I was waiting to make the decisions that impacted people. And I found that you just have to address it sooner rather than later. And it's a much better thing for everybody. The pain doesn't go away, but you address it so you can begin the healing.
Yep, very, very true. Also, a section that I so needed to hear, page 137, get away from your desk. So you talk about a story of a colleague who would leave the office for 15 or 20 minutes and take a walk away from the building. So you also would often just walk around the building. And I thought, but can I do that? What would colleagues say? Am I allowed to do that? Do I need to sign out and then sign in for the case that you have, this kind of system in your office? I thought it's so simple yet so powerful, because when you go outside, especially during summertime and when the weather is good, it's just as if your brain would start thinking in different patterns. It's as if you needed that symbolic slap from nature as here, a little bit more clarity. So tell us more about these short walks.
Oh, I think this, again, that's not rocket science here. I think it just clears your brain. It just reflects you. Some of my best thinking is done when just getting out of the building. Also, it's very important just for your health, because sometimes if you're wound up and you're stressed, it's not a good thing. Where we had lunch, and we went to New Jersey, in a little town called Hoboken. There's a pier there that I used to walk that would go out towards the Hudson River, and I would just do the loop and go around. And where you stayed in New York, when you were in New York City, right near Central Park, that my office years ago was right there, just down the street. And I would just take a walk in Central Park or walk up Central Park West and clear my brain, clear my thoughts, and gave me a chance to exhale and burn off a little stress, and actually help me create some new thinking about things too.
Absolutely. Another reminder that I needed was about prioritize your greatest opportunities. And this sentence, again, is worth so much money. Too often, we treat all opportunities equally, and that's putting us at a disadvantage. Wow. Have you seen people doing this mistake over and over again? Like, when did you realize, or when did you have this insight?
I think it's, again, learning through life. And we create these laundry lists of, I need to do this, I need to do that, I got to get this. And you got your, your yellow pad, and you've got your notes and all of this. And then you just say, you know what, I can't do all of that. For me, again, I can't have a cluttered desk. I can't have a cluttered life. I can't have cluttered priorities. So it goes back to my note and message of a little while ago. What are the 3 things that I want to accomplish? Or what are the 3 things that I want to get done in my career and in my business and in my personal life? And that focus of priorities, at least for me, is essential. So is it meeting new colleagues that I've taught through LinkedIn Learning? Is it doing sessions like this? Is it connecting with people like Kim? These are the priorities that mean so much to me in my business life. And I think those are the things, and those are the lessons that are important for all of us.
Absolutely. And I would like to close our conversation with a topic that a lot of people don't reflect on when it comes to their business. It is vacations. So you quote a Glassdoor survey, which says that only 23% of employees are taking all of their eligible time off. The average employee only takes half of his or her vacation time. And you talk about the physical and mental benefits for our time off. And maybe it is just like, if you don't want to take a whole week or whatever, then you take a Friday. So you have a longer weekend. I think especially nowadays in the current situation that we're in, this is so important. I mean, you have vacations for a reason, and it doesn't matter if you work for somebody or if you have your own business. Take these breaks, because you will look at yourself and at the world and at business in such a different way. And yes, you deserve that. And if you're not going to do it, I believe that you will pay the price, maybe later, not sooner, but eventually it's going to knock at your door. And unfortunately, very often you'll pay a very high health price for not taking care of your needs. Do you agree, Dean?
Can't say it better than that. You have to take time off. And that's why I like when in your post, Natalia, you talk about your business, you talk about helping people, you talk about motivating people, and you talk about nice experiences at that hotel in Dubai where you relax and you have fun and you get away from it all. Easier said than done sometimes, especially if you're an entrepreneur like you or like him or others who run their own businesses, but you have to do it. There are companies that force you to do it. You and I are not employees of LinkedIn, but we see a lot that goes on with that company because of the work we do here and because of our courses. But LinkedIn has a week off at Christmas. They shut down. They're off. And the holiday in the States here, July 4th, that week, that's off. You're required to take the week off, because a strong mind, a strong body makes a better employee. And again, is that how important is that for all of us? And take that Friday, but take that week every once in a while, because before you know it, you're going to be 70 years old. And enjoy life.
Yeah, no, I'm fully with you. Also, I'm checking the comments once again, but I think we've covered almost every question. So, Dean, where can people meet you, get back to you, learn more from you? How should they get in contact with you?
Reach out on LinkedIn. I'm here all the time. Connect with me, follow me. If there are some of these courses that you would like to watch and you'd like a link to them, the ones that I've mentioned today, I'll get you a link. So you can watch them. They are terrific courses. So please reach out to me, send me a message. I respond to everybody, believe me. So I would love that. And that's how you and I met, Natalia. That's how I met Kim. That's how I met all the great people on LinkedIn, is by reaching out. Networking is so critically important. Networking is not a little tag that says, hi, my name is Natalia. Hi, my name is Dean. Networking is, Natalia, I like your work. I'd like to learn more about you. So when you want to reach out to me, just do that. That's connecting and networking.
Absolutely. I've just pasted the link to your LinkedIn profile. So everybody who's not sure how to find you, you have the link there. Again, don't be shy, reach out. Thanks a lot for tuning in today. Thank you for your beautiful questions. I can see a lot of thank you, good one, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. It was so insightful. So yeah, Dean, once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for gifting us with your wisdom, knowledge, experience, and time. And, I'm very, very sure that we can do that once again. Once maybe you have a new book out or a new LinkedIn learning course, I think we should do such a live again. What do you think?
You're the best. Your energy, your enthusiasm, your motivation, your compassion and passion for people is so exceptional. That's why you have almost 100,000 followers, because you are helping to guide and motivate, and you're a good person. So thank you so much for letting me join you today, Dr. Natalia.
Oh, thank you once again. And for everybody who watched this and enjoyed it, please share this with your network, repost it, tag your family or friends or colleagues in this LinkedIn Live or if you're watching this on YouTube, share it to somebody that you care about. We've both invested an hour of our time to serve you, to help you. And, the content helps even more people if you spread the message. Sharing is caring. So go out there and share the insights. And until then, I'd say have a great day and talk very soon.
Bye now.
Bye.